I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Good morning. Welcome back. This is Focus Today, and our guest is Jeff Crouere. He's written a book. He's also the chairman of the Louisiana Trump Campaign, and so the book is called America's Last Chance. We're going to talk about that as well. Jeff, it's good to have you here. How's everything in Louisiana? It sounds like it's probably pretty good from your corner of the political world.
We're doing great down here. We had a big victory for Trump. We had 58%, won by 20. But New Orleans, where we broadcast from, is a big Hillary Clinton city. So Hillary won New Orleans, but the state as a overall was big time for Donald Trump. So we're very pleased about that.
Certainly Louisiana is a lot like Oregon that way too, because if you start looking, and what I found fascinating was the county by county vote. When they segmented the entire United States in counties, this is a red nation, but all of the populations in the blue areas were huge. And that's why we were talking earlier about Senator Barbara Boxer saying she wanted to get rid of the whole situation of the Electoral College. That would destroy all the rural areas from having any voice as well. So that's a whole other issue. But I want to ask you about this.
Let me just say thank God for the Electoral College. Okay. I'm a big fan of the Electoral College.
I think so. That would make sense. Let's talk about the media. And one thing that I found fascinating was I was watching one of the alphabet networks, and what surprised me, and I've been in the media for a long time, but I was surprised by those in New York, I guess you'd say, and Washington, who were astounded that, in fact, Trump had won. It was as if they hadn't even considered the possibility, and they were caught flat-footed. And I thought, you know, that's really not doing your homework when at least you can't kind of remove yourself from your own views and say there's always a possibility. Dewey defeats Truman, you know, that kind of a moment,
right,
where you're going to be surprised. But they had absolutely no, I guess it was, relationship with those people who would have voted for Trump. So I think we've got a big problem in trusting the media, and I would imagine you probably hold those same views, right?
Well, they don't know the heartland. They don't know the middle class. They're plugged into the East Coast, the establishment, sort of elite media, and then the West Coast, the left coast. But in between is a red nation, and in between is a lot of folks who are been struggling, who didn't want Obama's policies to continue. And these media types, Hollywood types, these elitists, really aren't plugged in, I think, to the plight of the middle class. And I think the middle class really delivered the election result for Donald Trump.
Well, if in fact, and I don't know that a lot of the media wants to become unbiased as they were when I was taking classes for, you know, how to be the reporter you should be. That was part of the whole aspect of it all. Can, in fact, the trust be restored in the media, do you think, or is it too far gone?
Well, look at what's going on since the Trump election. I mean, the New York Times seems to be on a rampage. I talked to my listeners about a hit piece done in the Washington Post on a distinguished gentleman who we have on our program regularly, Frank Gaffney, called him an extremist. And I think this is going to be continuing. I think it's going to be a rough few years for the new president vis-a-vis the media. So I think our role on talk radio and folks really in the alternative media are still going to be very important, because we're going to have to present the other side to the people of America.
Do you think Americans can decipher the problem with if there is a biased media when they hear a story?
Well, I think they do, because the Media Research Center did a study of voters on Election Day, and it showed that 70% agreed that there's a biased media. 97% said the media's bias didn't change their vote. So I think the people realize it, and the people are sticking to their convictions. So the media is really not having the impact that they once did. I mean, remember in the day, I mean, you know, since you've been in the business, when there was just 3 networks, you just had the evening news, and you could really influence the election result. Now you've got so many options, and I think people are getting their news from different sources. Thankfully, otherwise, Donald Trump would have never had a chance.
Now, you're the co-chair, of course, of the Louisiana Trump Campaign. Do you ratchet down now, or do you go into a different mode? What happens with a campaign like yours that way?
Well, I mean, for one, I'm still celebrating. So once the celebrating is over, then I guess we can go into a different mode. And I've been getting a lot of folks contacting me. They want to get involved in the Trump administration. They want to play a role. So I've been trying to direct people to the right ways to get involved and to try to help this new president. And of course, to get mundane requests for things like inauguration tickets and all that other thing. But I think there's just a lot of excitement. People want to be part of this. And maybe because I'm representative of the campaign, I've just been hearing nothing but positive things. I see on TV, Steve, all these people crying and negative and mad, but I really haven't run into too many of them out on the streets.
Now, there's going to be, what, roughly, I hear, estimated like 4,000 types of appointments that come as a result of a president taking office. So are those some of the people who are contacting you actually could be in some of those appointed positions?
I mean, I've had people contact me for their sons and daughters who are just graduating college, and then I've had people contact me that are experienced folks in government. So it's a wide range of people. But I would say that most of these appointments are going to be made in the next few days, or obviously the people are going to be in key positions. So maybe a few of the folks that contacted me will be actually selected, because there were some pretty prominent folks who have reached out. And to me, that's a good sign, because you have a lot of talent there. I think there are a lot of people, and there are just not as many positions as there are people that are interested. So I don't envy this transition team and what they're going through right now. The media is saying that it's in disarray, but I can imagine how difficult it is to work with so many applicants for these positions. I'm sure there are many times more than 4,000 who have expressed interest.
You know, as you're talking about the smaller group of people who will be at the top that Donald Trump actually has to select, as you're looking at the scope of the people who are possible candidates for Attorney General, Secretary of State, and so on, what's your take on that? Is there a list that you would like to see? He's published his list, but are there some specific people you'd like to see in some posts that you think would complement his administration, given that it's going to be a tough time with the media in the next few months?
Right. I would like to have loyalists, defenders, people that agree with him. I mean, he has had sort of a strong position on a number of issues, and I think he needs to have people that are in line with his positions who can defend his positions. Rand Paul was saying it didn't make sense for Trump to bring on someone as Secretary of State who's pro getting involved in more and more war, extending the Middle East conflicts, because he's had sort of an anti-war position. So I think he needs to select someone who is really in agreement with his positions, because that person is going to be defending them. So in the Republican Party, there are a lot of folks who don't agree with Donald Trump on a lot of these issues. So I think he's got to be careful to bring on folks that can be defenders of his and that agree with him and that can work well with him.
And there have been some Republicans who have kind of distanced themselves, of course, from the Trump campaign, and so that would eliminate some of those for office. You're saying there's plenty of qualified people you think that he has to select from.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I think there's a plethora of very talented people, and I would just hope that they're going to be successful in bringing all these people on board. I'm cautiously optimistic from what I've seen so far. To me, it's sort of reminiscent of Ronald Reagan and the type of team that he built. So, I mean, I've got high hopes for our next president. I really do.
All right, we've got about 30 seconds. Let me ask you this. I heard Ted Cruz had a meeting this morning, or at least last night, with Donald Trump. I can't imagine what that meeting would have been like. I would have loved to have been there. Do you think there's a Ted Cruz possibility in his cabinet?
I hear he's being considered for Attorney General.
Wow.
So
okay, Lion Ted. I'm sorry, all of this comes back. I will have to see. Jeff Crouere, thank you. You've written the book called America's Last Chance. You're also the co-chair for the Louisiana Trump Campaign. I'm sure you've got some interesting days to look forward to.
Yes.
Appreciate you being here. People can get America's Last Chance on Amazon?
And right? At jeffcrouere.com. That's CROUERE.com.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us for Focus Today. We'll be back with more great guests coming up tomorrow, so keep it tuned right here for Focus Today.